Hey guys, and welcome to the second annual look at the best Lost Bits of the year. Despite 2020 being quite a mediocre year at best for most, this year has been another awesome one for my Lost Bits series. With over 30 Lost Bits videos uploaded in 2020, there was a bunch of cool unused, scrapped, and unseen content to talk about. So once again, as this year wraps up, I wanted to take a look back and go over what I think are the top 10 Lost Bits of the year. These are of course based on my opinion, so I wouldn't be surprised if you thought something was more or less interesting than I did. So once again, I decided to poll you guys over on Twitter as well as in a YouTube community post, and I'll be sharing the viewer's choice later in the video. Anyways, what do you say we wrap up 2020 and talk about some of this year's best Lost Bits? Starting off strong at number 10 are the alpha leftovers found unused in one of the pre-release demos of Mario Kart DS. Now there are several developmental remnants from Mario Kart Double Dash found in the demos for this game, but these in particular are pretty obvious. Several menus, including a character select and kart stats menu, look very similar to that seen in Double Dash. Like, the character portrait images appear to be the same, and even straight up just used the fire cart for this here menu. Being released only about 2 years apart, development of Mario Kart DS likely started not long after Double Dash's release, so it makes sense why these early screens would take inspiration from it. Either way, I think they're an awesome glimpse into what the game looked like in a very early stage of development. Those that have been watching this series for a while now probably know I'm a huge sucker for unused levels in games, and Animal Crossing certainly delivered on that front. We saw everything from glitchy models, messed up text, testing areas for objects like trees and pitfalls, more glitched textures, and of course, who could forget, moving, glowing yellow blocks. This game had a bunch of really cool stuff to dive into in these test stages. Just like Animal Crossing, Pikmin also came through with a bunch of cool unused stages. I gotta say, I love that so many games from this era left all these cool unused stages in their files. Anyways, as awesome as the unused stages were in Animal Crossing, I found those here in Pikmin a bit more interesting. We saw the strange test graphic board thing, the area with the different Ramune bottles and hyper-realistic background graphic, and of course, a few massive unused test areas, including this absolutely giant one that had everything you'd expect in a test map like this. Yet another collection of awesome areas to just shut your mind off and fool around in. To celebrate the release of the rehydrated remake of SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, at the request of many of you, this year I finally covered the original release of the game. In that video, I went over several unused areas. These included an unused area for the boss fight stage with SpongeBot SquarePants, early beta versions of the Goo Lagoon stage, as well as the really cool unused Patrick's Dream stage. This stage was definitely my favorite. Looking very trippy, here several test characters can be seen, as well as evil onion and pickle slices that hurt you. Fans were really hoping the stage would be re-added in the remake, as unused content was promised to be re-added, and it was. Kinda. But we'll talk about that in a bit. My first Baldis Basics Lost Bits video did really well a few years ago, so I was really excited to revisit the series on the channel. This time around, I had the absolute pleasure and honor of making the video with the help of the creator of the game himself, Mistman12. He was able to shed some light on previous misconceptions, the history of some unused graphics, and most interestingly, I think, he shared with me the first ever file of Baldis Basics history, dating back to November of 2015, over 2 years before the first demo release of the game. This file, titled SBR Recording 11715, was an early recorded audio file. Here's a quick sample.
Welcome to Baldis Basics and Education and Learning. You'll have lots of fun here, I just know it.
This was apparently an early test recording for the game's intro, and the game was once intended to be developed for the 3DS, which is why the audio quality is so low. It was really cool to not only work with a developer in an episode, but an absolute honor to be able to share a previously unheard file, let alone the first ever for the game. Now, in the past, I seldom discussed regional differences, but I'm glad I started doing it more often because some games sure do have some interesting ones. This year, I think the most interesting were the regional sign differences seen in Mario Kart 64. In short, the Japanese version of Mario Kart 64 has signs throughout the game that appear to be parodies of existing brands like Goodyear, Mobil, and Marlboro. So, unsurprisingly, to either avoid any sort of legal trouble or being associated with smoking, Nintendo changed many of these signs for the international releases. Now, what I found even weirder is that some of these signs actually returned in the demo version of some Mario Kart DS remakes of 64 stages, like Choco Mountain. Regardless, I always found this change to be a really interesting part of Mario Kart trivia. So I went over the original release of SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom earlier here, but thankfully the remake had some really cool stuff for us to see as well. Interestingly, many of the out-of-bounds things that were seen in the original were here as well, like this stuff outside of SpongeBob's kitchen, or this shiny object under Mrs. Puff here that's less than shiny in the remake. Also, we saw even more unused areas, such as an enemy test room, the boss fight area for the still unused SpongeBot fight with two creepy textureless T-posing SpongeBots found out of bounds here, and finally, and unfortunately, the Patrick's Dream stage. Although it was technically brought back in a form in the mediocre at best multiplayer survival mode, the stage itself from the original was also brought back, but only as a level model. This one didn't have any objects to interact with, or anything really, it's just an empty area to mess around in. But I digress. It's not super often that I get to make some discoveries myself, so some stuff in this game holds a special place for me. I certainly don't want to make it seem like I'm bragging or anything, but it's a nice feeling to be the first to document new discoveries. This last year also saw the introduction of art book editions of Lost Bits with the release of videos on both Cuphead and Super Mario Odyssey. In both, I dived into several concepts that didn't make it into the respective final release. Of these, by far the most interesting I thought were the numerous costume concepts that didn't make it into the final release of Super Mario Odyssey. Although the game has many costumes as is, there are so many scrapped ones in this art book that I thought were awesome, including several unused boxer designs, Luma Mario, Party Mario, early 20th century cartoon style Mario, and so much more. With already over, I think, 70 costumes in the game, it's no surprise that many had to be cut. But yeah, I think a lot of these designs were awesome. "2020 has also been quite a doozy for Nintendo, as we've gotten more noteworthy leaks this year than pretty much any year I can remember. On top of awesome leaks regarding Pokemon and Super Mario 64, several new Nintendo 64 tech demos were leaked, so I decided to cover those as well as some of the ones we've already had prior. These tech demos had a wide range, from floating spinning cubes, some model and texture viewers, face morphing, to even some playable game demos. My favorite of these though was Fog Test, a cool little demo that lets you fly around in an area. It's really relaxing to just vibe with. Overall, I was quite pleased with the quality of many of these tech demos. I thought they were awesome, and almost like a time capsule to see how the capabilities of one of my favorite consoles was tested and shown off in the mid-90s. And now, before getting to my number one spot of 2020, time for the best Lost Bits as chosen by you, the viewers. Like I said, I ran a poll over on Twitter, be sure to follow me there, as well as in a YouTube community post, and I asked what your favorite Lost Bits of 2020 were. Well, I got the results back, and they were about what I expected. So, the top 3 Lost Bits as chosen by you guys. At number 3, we again got the Nintendo 64 demos, good choice. Then, taking the number 2 and number 1 spots are, unsurprisingly, Minecraft. with the number 2 spot being the old Nether reactor, and the number 1 lost bit, as chosen by many of you, being the blocks that went unused or updated in the Bedrock edition. Honestly, I feel like any Minecraft option would have won. I could have put Minecraft My Dirty Socks, and I'm sure many of you would have voted for it. Anyways, thank you to all that voted. It was really cool to see what you guys thought was more or less interesting. But anyways, now I think it's time we get to the number 1 spot. And now, finally coming up at the number 1 spot are the several unused minigames I had found earlier this year in Fall Guys. Around August, many thought Fall Guys was going to be the defining game of 2020, and although it was quickly dethroned by some game about doing tasks, I think the unused games and menus here are still really fascinating. We saw an unused developer menu, a beta version of the results screen, some test maps, and even a few unused minigames. These minigames included a maze-looking one where the player would have to avoid incoming obstacles, one called Skydive, where the player would have to find which box contains a hole to pass through to get to the next layer, this cool-looking eye-shaped stage, a variant of the DoorDash minigame meant for 100 players, and more. I haven't played Fall Guys in a hot minute, so I don't know if these have been added back into the game at this point in one way or another, but still, it was really cool to see these hidden away. This is definitely another super biased choice for me, since I believe I was the first to document some of these, but regardless if that's the case or not, these minigames were really interesting to load into and fly around in. If they haven't already, I really do hope some of these get re-implemented into the game in the future. And with that wraps up 2020 for Lost Bits, and this will probably be the last video on the channel of the year. And I just wanted to give a really big thank you to everyone that's been watching, liking, and supporting the show and the channel, and I hope I can keep bringing you videos that you'll enjoy in the years to come. If you want more context for the things I discussed in this video, or just want to rewatch some of the videos from this year, click or tap on the card right here to check out the Lost Bits playlist. Anyways, fellas, thank you all so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you in 2021 and beyond. And as always, I will see you in a bit.